The date that this video is posted proves that these predictions are being made ahead of time, as do these time-stamped emails and forensic notes PDF documents. If you are skeptical for some reason, please email me and I will forward these to you. All right, welcome. This video is predicting that 2 dirty bombs will explode in New York City, in Manhattan, and there will be a large-scale evacuation from Manhattan Island on March 22nd, 2025. The date that this video is posted proves that this prediction is being made ahead of time. And so, one of the truly, in my opinion, most beautiful signs that God is using, a theme that God is using in his true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections, is this theme of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And that is because the classic 1971 Gene Wilder Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory is a gift from God. It is a most beautiful gift from God. It explains the meaning of life. It is truly from God. I mean that literally, the movie itself. And I'm not talking about the Johnny Depp version, which is garbage. The Tim Burton Johnny Depp version. The makers of that movie, the remake with Johnny Depp, were not possibly able to understand the original movie because they aren't Christian. They don't know God. And so it would be impossible for them to make that movie properly. They didn't get it. What they got out of it and why they wanted to make a remake, I'm not sure. You could only speculate, but it definitely had nothing to do with the original and the underlying meaning of the original movie, which is truly a gift from God. Now, I will, at the end of this video, and I'll try to make this explanation of this profound, truly amazing diagram as quick as possible in order to get to the clip that I've already recorded, I think a couple of years ago now, regarding the explanation for how the 1971 Gene Wilder movie is a beautiful illustration of the meaning of life and God's plan with a capital P. Okay? So that's why God is using Willy Wonka in his signs, as this video will explain and as is illustrated in this diagram. Now, to get to the purpose of this video, it is to prove the things about Willy Wonka that I'll be explaining at the end of the video. And to do that, to get your attention, for you to take very seriously and literally what will be explained regarding the meaning of life and the movie Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, God will use this prediction that is from God regarding the dirty bombs exploding in Manhattan, will prove everything that I'm saying in this video. And that is the purpose of the video and the prediction that is from God. Believe me, I know far better than you the reason and purpose for the prediction, and it is to prove the things that I'll be saying about Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory movie and its message. Okay? So we'll jump to the end. I could do this in reverse. I could actually start at the beginning points of the diagram and work my way to the end. But let's start with the end and get it out of the way, and then I'll get into the beautiful things that God has been doing. The prediction is for March 22nd. And it is for these explosions of dirty bombs. If not, it's a suitcase nuke, but I really don't think so. But anyway, and that'll be in Manhattan and New York City on March 22nd. Okay? March 22nd is 25 days after this sign here on the 25th of the month in this year 25. So there's a bunch of 25s going on. And it's the 25th of the month, and we've got this 25 days connection. 25 days is 5 times 5 days. It is also 5 to the power of 2 days. That's why on this day, we received this sign in which trumpet, God's trumpet that he uses to trumpet and highlight his prophetic signs. In archaic English, the word trumpet, or rather trump, means trumpet or the sounding of a trumpet. Trumpet trumpeted on this day for the first time his gold card. If you know the movie, you already know where this is going. This is a hint at the golden ticket in the movie Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Okay, the kids that win the prize of the tour of the factory of Willy Wonka's, the chocolate factory, they, in their chocolate bars, unfolded when they ate the chocolate bar and opened it up, they received the golden ticket. In other words, the Wonka announced that there would be this prize, there would be these golden tickets in 5 of the bars, nationwide, whatever, and for 5 lucky kids. So anyway, that's the premise of the movie there, the tour of the chocolate factory. But that's what's hinted at with the gold card. It hints at the golden ticket. Now, it was trumpeted that the sale of these gold cards will be for $5 million. This was the same day that Governor Josh, as in Joshua from the Bible, and walls of security collapsing in God's judgment, which will be the case on this day when the dirty bombs are predicted to explode. This is the day that Governor Josh of Pennsylvania, in the capital city of Pennsylvania, Harrisonburg, trumpeted that the executive order of Trump's was overruled by a court. The governor had won the court case, and $2 billion that were being held up by Trump would be required to be released to Pennsylvania. Okay, and it's actually 2.1 billion, which ends at 21, which is 7 plus 7 plus 7. And that's because the Israelites, who were led by Joshua around the walls of security, before the walls collapsed in God's judgment, they enacted a symbolic 3 sets of 7, which included blowing 7 trumpets, as in trumpets. That's why Josh and Trump connect to each other here, because they blew trumpets led by Joshua, and then the walls of security collapsed. And it's connecting to this day when security will collapse. Okay, and I actually believe that one of the 2 bombs will likely be on Wall Street. That'll be more Joshua symbolism, as in the walls of security that collapsed in God's judgment after they blew trumpets led by Joshua. So we have the governor Joshua, and it's a governor, so he's the leader, as was Joshua in the Bible. And so that's why 2.1. But it's also 2. I mean, some news stories got into the detail of it being 2.1, but the headlines were 2 billion. And he is the governor, Governor Josh, is the governor of the second state. This 2 billion and 5 million is a hint at the 5 to the power of 2. That's this confirmation for the 5 to the power of 2 days, 25 days from the 25th of the month in this year 25. Also, 25 is the 9th semi-prime number. And God pairs 9 and 22 together to confirm his signs and connections. This is because the inverse of the mark of the Antichrist is described in the book of Ezekiel chapter 9, which would have been a Tav mark. And in Hebrew, the Tav letters, the last letter Tav, the letters in the Hebrew alphabet are also symbols, and the last letter Tav is a symbol for a mark. Also, it is the 22nd letter of the alphabet. The mark of the Antichrist is described in the last book of the Bible, the 22nd book out of 22 books in the Bible that have a total of 22 chapters. The mark of the Antichrist also changes a person's chromosomes. Chromosomes come with 2 arms, and they come in pairs, so 2 and 2, which is why 22 also is symbolic of the mark of the Antichrist. And so that's why 9 and 22. are paired together in his signs. And this is how God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections works, which is only being explained on this channel. It works on the principle of second and third and multiple witnesses confirming a matter, as the Bible says is required. And this is what makes what is being explained on this channel true and not a product of one's imagination and different and unique than everything else on the internet that claims to be an analysis of God's prophetic signs. And if we think about it, one simple way in which he would provide a second witness for us is through pairing certain numbers together, such as 9 and 22. And I know this because I have been studying his big picture of signs, patterns, and connections from morning until night for more than full-time hours for more than 7 years. In case you don't know what a semi-prime number is, a number that is only divisible by 2 other prime numbers, and God uses this for his signs, and I know that, again, also because I've been studying his big picture of signs for more than 7 years. Okay, so 25 is the 9th semi-prime number. That pairs with the 2 and 2. Second state, 2 billion, which hints at 22. But it also is, again, a 5 to the power of 2, because of the 5 million and 2 billion, or the 5 million in the second state. Okay, so that's how we get from this. Now, the rest of this video, I'll explain this, how all of these other signs get us to the Trump at gold card. These other signs that involve Willy Wonka and the chocolate factory. Okay, and before I get there though, Harrisonburg is right near the chocolate factory region of Pennsylvania. There's like Hershey, Pennsylvania, for example. It's like the center of the country where the candy is made. And Wonka was the candy man, right? And Harrisonburg is literally right near it, but Harrisonburg is, and that's relevant. That's just actually in itself confirmation that the Trump gold card is hinting at the golden ticket in the movie Willy Wonka, because the other big news story on the day was in Harrisonburg, right near the chocolate factory region of the US. Okay, but also Harrisonburg is right near, or even next to really, 3 Mile Island, which is where there was an explosion, as I'll talk about here. Let's see, no, right here. The 3 Mile Island explosion and evacuation when one of the nuclear reactors melted down partially. That's why this is confirmation here. This sign involving Josh, as in walls of security collapsing, in Harrisonburg, right near 3 Mile Island. It's all part of this. Because the 3 Mile Island explosion connects, as I'll explain here. So why don't I get into it here? First of all, we need to go here, actually. This was the day of the chocolate factory explosion in the second state, right near Harrisonburg. That chocolate factory region of the state I was talking about. There was a big, massive chocolate factory explosion. I have video of it, but it's not really necessary. I mean, it's just a big, massive explosion because it was caught on video. The building was so explosive that the building was knocked back, the whole building was knocked back 4 feet. So I'm going to read this, all this information regarding this chocolate factory explosion. So I'm just going to expand the diagram here. Okay. So March 24th, 2023, the chocolate factory explosion in Pennsylvania near 3 Mile Island. That's why, by the way, this is why the 3 Mile Island explosion is amazing symbolism for what we are predicting, which is nuclear material in a bomb, and then the ensuing evacuation due to the toxic material, which is the reason for the evacuation from 3 Mile Island after the explosion and the meltdown, because of toxic material on 3 Mile Island. So the 3 Mile Island incident is perfect symbolism. Also, it's an island, and the name of the island begins with an M, which hints at Manhattan Island. So this is an amazing sign, all right? Now, so anyway, we had this explosion, and it was right near 3 Mile Island because it's designed by God to be right near 3 Mile Island because it hints at it. And there were 7 deaths, 10 injured. 7 times 10 is 70. The number 7 is God's number that indicates his divine touch upon something. The company was founded in 1948. That's extremely prophetic because Israel was founded in 1948. And Jesus spoke in the parable of the fig tree about a generation not passing away before all of these things come to pass, the end times. And it's only symbolism, but in Psalm 90:10, we have it said that a generation is 70 years. On the exact 70th anniversary, Trump had the U.S. Embassy in Israel open. He trumpeted that the embassy would be rebuilt in Jerusalem on the exact 70th anniversary in the Hebrew calendar of the recognition of Israel as a state in the UN. That's amazing too. But anyway, so and that's also a parallel with the prophecy of King Cyrus in Isaiah 45. Trump was the 45th president. Cyrus also decreed with a paper, and on December 6th, 2017, when he had trumpeted that the embassy would be rebuilt, it was a piece of paper that he held up for the media that he signed, a decree. And King Cyrus decreed that the Jews be allowed to return to Jerusalem and build the house of God. Trump trumpeted the rebuilding of a house, the embassy, exactly 70 years. And the prophecy in Jeremiah was that the Jews would be exiled for 70 years. And then they were liberated by Cyrus exactly 70 years later. All right. So that's why it's amazing that we have this company that was founded in 1948 and the 7 deaths and 10 injured, because it hints at this number 70, which is associated with Israel and a regathering of Israel, restoration of Israel, because of the restoration with King Cyrus. We're now, of course, talking about the second restoration, after the second exile, when the Jews were exiled around the world, instead of to Babylon. Okay, now, let's see, why did I write that? Well, anyway, 4 employees, the company started when it was founded with 4 employees. So a part of the story of the chocolate factory explosion is its history. It's got a past. Because 1948 was a long time ago. It's historic, this company. And so that was part of the story when the chocolate factory exploded. And that's because God designed the story, for us to look into the details of its past. But I believe even in the articles in 2023, it would have said things like there were originally 4 employees. Company founded in 1948 with 4 employees and began with only 4 products. That's in the articles, not just on the Wikipedia page, I'm pretty sure. But that's actually prophetic right there, though. It began with 4 employees and 4 products. That's because the 44th president is the Antichrist, whose name Obama hints at Obama. The Barak bombings in Beirut hints at Barack, and they occurred exactly 444 months after the first UN session in New York, and on and on. But anyway, well, much more than that, actually. Barack Obama was a member of the May 19th Communist Organization, which was responsible for bombing the Capitol building. And he was a member of this organization at the time. And that's a fact. And when the prediction comes to pass, it'll prove this. But I do not want to make this another video about that subject. Okay? So Obama, right? And so 4 employees, 4 products, this explosion, that's 44th president symbolism. It's a second witness. Like I said, I think, if I didn't, I'll just say it quickly. This is how God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections works, which is only being explained on this channel. It works on the principle of second and third and multiple witnesses confirming a matter as the Bible says is required. And this is what makes what is being explained on this channel true and not a product of one's imagination and different and unique than everything else on the internet that claims to be an analysis of God's prophetic signs. And if we think about it, one simple way in which God would provide a second witness for us is through pairing certain numbers together. Okay, such as 44 and 23, as I'll explain. And I know this because I have been studying his big picture of signs, patterns, and connections from morning until night for more than full-time hours for more than 7 years. And the reason for it is not precisely to identify the Antichrist, although yes, that's like foundational though. God uses this as a tool, the identity of the Antichrist as a tool to further develop his big picture of signs to reveal more information. Contrary to what evangelicals say, the identity of the Antichrist is of course knowable, and their interpretation of 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 is based on their heresy, their soteriological doctrine. Okay? That tells them that the identity of the Antichrist is not knowable. Paul was not saying that. That's why he wrote cryptically. He said that the Thessalonians already knew. He wrote cryptically saying what was holding the Antichrist back was a he and a what. Well, why did he write cryptically? Because he knew that anyone in possession of the letter would be in danger because he was talking about Rome and the emperor of Rome and the moving of Rome, the capital, to Constantinople. The he and the what? Rome and the emperor of Rome. Once that was out of the way, it gave way to the rise of the power of the bishops, which became popes. And that's one way we know that the Pope is the Antichrist, the first of the two Antichrists. There's many, many clear as day prophecy in the Old Testament that makes it astoundingly clear that a Pope would be the Antichrist, and it is a big shame, it's shameful that the modern evangelical church and Protestantism has lost this knowledge that was widely known 60 years ago, but it's timed precisely for our time so that many people would be deceived. That loss of that knowledge. Well, anyway, let's continue here. The explosion knocked the building 4 feet. Okay, so it was 4 employees, it began with 4 products, and the explosion knocked the building 4 feet. By the way, all of this will confirm this 4 days connection, as I'll explain in a second. Now, the company began with a $25,000 investment. Well, where did we see that? It's the 25 days. That's why. This gold card is clearly a connection to Willy Wonka, and this is the big Willy Wonka sign here, the explosion of the chocolate factory. And this company, which I've now established as being prophetic through its details of its founding, began with its founding with $25,000, which confirms later the 25 days. The first big order that the company had that got it on its feet was by a 25-cent store chain. So back in the day, they didn't have dollar stores, they had 25-cent stores. Okay, and so there was a big 25-cent store chain that purchased a big order. That started the company's success. That's another 25. That's a second witness, which, as I just mentioned, is how it works. It confirms the signs and connections, the second witnesses, as the Bible says is required. Now, the explosion occurred at 4:30 p.m., and H430 in the Hebrew concordance, Strong's concordance, is the word that means God, and the G in the Greek concordance, 430, means endure, as in enduring the end times and the Antichrist. Okay, and also 430 is symbolic of the exile of the Jews. God told Ezekiel to do a symbolic thing for 430 days total that would symbolize the 430 years that God was promising for their punishment. Okay. Okay. Anyway, but that's relevant because of the connection to the founding of Israel here, right? Now, building number 2, it was building number 2 that exploded, and it was in the second state. The address was 55 South 2nd Avenue. That's another confirmation for the 5 to the power of 2. Okay? But also, again, the company was founded with $25,000 and an order by the 25-cent store chain. That would be also confirmed with the 55 South 2nd Avenue. Okay? Now, there was a woman that fell into the chocolate vat. This is a part of the story. The woman was rescued the following day. She was in the vat overnight underneath the debris of the destroyed building. And then, from what I recall, I think a dog sniffed her out, found her. But she was in a chocolate vat. And that's amazing Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory symbolism, because if you recall, if you've seen the movie, the kids, one by one, after disobeying the rules, meet their demise in some strange way, to which Wonka reacts in an aloof way. We don't really know what happened to them, but one of them falls into the chocolate, right? One of the kids. And he gets sucked up the big chocolate pipe, right? So that's why the woman fell into the chocolate vat. It's amazing. Now, okay. So we've established this. Let's go here. This chocolate factory explosion, the chocolate factory owned by the company that was founded with 4 employees and 4 products, is exactly 2 times 30 weeks, which is 23, which confirms the signs and connections. Because again, God pairs 23 and 44. The reason is, the 44th president is the basketball president who wore 23 in high school. Okay, and again, I didn't elaborate that, but that's, again, it's a tool. It reveals the identity of the Antichrist, but the purpose here is, we already know that the Antichrist is Obama. God's using this as a tool to develop the big picture and learn other things through it. And anyway, so it's exactly 2 times 30 weeks back to the bridge collapse in Pennsylvania. And the coincidence of that, which confirmed the prophetic significance of it, is that it collapsed right before Joe Biden got to Pittsburgh to deliver a speech regarding infrastructure. And you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if this $2 billion is related to the promise of infrastructure here on this speech in 2022. Well, anyway, so Biden, once he arrived, like minutes later, he went to the location of the collapsed bridge. I mean, perfect for his propaganda of, well, not propaganda. I mean, definitely the U.S. infrastructure is crumbling. But anyway, to promote, it's perfect for his promotion, I should say, of the money for infrastructure. Now, the part of the story was an evacuation. That's what makes this all tie to this, and the coming predicted evacuation after an explosion in Manhattan. Okay, so there was a gas pipeline broke when the bridge collapsed, and the pipeline was 4 times 4 inches. It was a 16-inch pipe, and that's 4 times 4, which pairs with the 2 times 30 weeks, which is 23, another pairing of 23 and 44. All right. Now, the area of Pittsburgh where this bridge collapsed was Squirrel Hill. That's prophetic because it is part of a pattern that went back to the shooting at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Squirrel Hill in 2018. A major prophetic sign. I won't get into it. I've explained it many other times in other videos. But that related to Israel, that sign also. So this was a Squirrel Hill sign. Well, I'll just say, on the day of the shooting, 4 police officers were wounded, and on that same day was Game 4 of the World Series, in which player 44, Rich Hill, was prematurely taken out of the game, the pitcher, and trumpeted his criticism for the move, which ended up costing the Dodgers their 4-0 lead. It was 4-0, as in 40 weeks exactly after, never mind. It was also 444 days after the Revelation chapter 12 sign, which is about a birth. 40 weeks is the average human gestation period. And it was also 40 weeks after the Antichrist Star of Bethlehem sign, and on and on. But it was Game 4, player number 44 was removed, and it was 4 police officers injured, I should say, in the synagogue shooting in Squirrel Hill, and the media kept talking about how Squirrel Hill was the rich neighborhood of Pittsburgh. That's why Rich Hill was the name of the pitcher, number 44, who was taken from the game. All of this ultimately points to the Antichrist, the 44th president, who will also persecute Jews in Judea. Okay, and so anyway, that's why the 4 times 4 inches pipe in Squirrel Hill here with the collapse of the bridge. Now, the collapse of the bridge is also a theme that God is using, these bridges, to as symbolism for the bridge from the demonic realm to the earthly realm that will be opened with the key to the bottomless pit that's described in Revelation chapter 9. Okay, and Revelation chapter 9, this is symbolized by Revelation chapter 9:11. And on 9/11, it was 44 people that died in a plane crash in Pennsylvania, and the location was repeatedly in the news stories at the time said to have been 80 miles, which is 40 plus 40 miles outside of Pittsburgh, which again hits the 44th president. And again, this 4 times 4 inches pipeline and threat of explosion, the gas pipeline and evacuation, that was in Pittsburgh, near where the 44 people died in the plane crash on 9/11. So you see how it's all interconnected. Okay, it's amazing, right? It's God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections. Now, okay, so we've established this connection, and I've also alluded to the relevance of the 4 days connection. What does that get us to? It gets us to the initial NTSB report, National Transportation Safety Board report. But what also confirms the relevance of this date, is that it was the day of these barges. It was another prophetic sign. These barges came loose, and one of them got stuck at a bridge, a major bridge, and it had explosive material on it. Okay, so that was a concern. It was explosion symbolism, and it's probable that the NTSB would have been looking into that incident as well. But anyway, this incident was exactly 44 years after the 3 Mile Island incident. And the 3 Mile Island incident is also on a river. This island is on a river. This was involving a river. It involved explosive material, the threat of it. And of course, 3 Mile Island is about an explosion and then an evacuation. So there's 44 years exactly to this, which hints at the 44th president, but that also confirms this 4 days connection, as does the 4 employees and 4 products, as I explained. And a building being knocked back 4 feet. That itself, by the way, that's astounding. That's a big part of the story. It got knocked back 4 feet. That in itself is enough of a confirmation for the 4 days connection. But we also have 4 employees and 4 products, which ends at 44, and that also confirms this 44 years connection, which makes sense because Obama was the 44th president. We're talking about an explosion. This ultimately connects to the predicted explosions and the bombs in Manhattan Island, as in 3 Mile Island. And this connection here, let's see, why not? So it's 70 plus 70 plus 70 days exactly from the prophetic NTSB report on the river explosion sign to the release of the new Wonka movie. Okay? That's amazing. This is obviously part of the pattern. If God is demonstrating a pattern for Willy Wonka, you would expect that the new spin of the Wonka movie, this new Wonka movie, the release date of it would be prophetic, and it is, and it connects with exactly 70 plus 70 plus 70 days. But as I mentioned earlier, that's confirmed with the 7 deaths and 10 injured, and the 7 times 10 equals 70 because of the significance of 70 and the restoration of Israel, and the company was founded when Israel was restored. But also, this is a 3 sets of 7. And again, the walls of security collapsed in God's judgment when Joshua led the Israelites in a symbolic 3 sets of 7. Which is why this 70 plus 70 plus 70 days, 3 sets of 7, connects to this, the Wonka release of the release of the Wonka movie, and then in turn is exactly 70 weeks to this 3 sets of 7, 2.1 billion, and trumpet, because the Israelites blew trumpets in their 3 sets of 7, and the gold card, as in the golden ticket, Willy Wonka. Also, the most central prophecy in the Bible is the 70 weeks prophecy, which regards the timing of the Antichrist, but also the restoration of Israel. Okay, so 70 plus 70 plus 70 days, obviously, is confirmed and with 70 weeks and vice versa. That's an amazing, jaw-dropping thing, because it all includes the Willy Wonka symbolism. Don't forget, this is all about not just the day counts, but the symbolism, the relevance. The gold ticket card, the Wonka movie, the follow-up to the chocolate factory explosion NTSB report, okay? That's amazing, beyond words. Everything I've explained so far is amazing beyond words. It's all solid. It's all real. Not a product of someone's imagination. This is all second and third witnesses confirming the matter. Let's go back. We have another 7 months from the 7 deaths. From 7 deaths, it's exactly 7 months to the Wonka movie, which is followed by 70 weeks. Triply amazing now. Quadruply, fifth second witness, right? So many second witnesses confirming the matter. We've got 70 plus 70 plus 70 days plus 70 weeks, but we also have 7 months from the 7 deaths, followed by 70 weeks. That's amazing beyond words. Gets us to the Trump gold card, trumpeting of the gold card, the golden ticket symbolism, Willy Wonka. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. On the day of the Shapiro Harrisonburg near the chocolate factory that exploded, right? Don't forget, the gold card is also the day of the sign near where the chocolate factory exploded. So 7 months plus 70 weeks, exactly from the explosion of the chocolate factory with the 7 deaths, to the sign involving the governor, Josh, near where the chocolate factory exploded. And it was 2 billion, and the building was building number 2 that exploded on 2nd Avenue. Okay, that's more amazing, confirmation, more second witnesses. Speaking of 2s, let's go here. Do we want to go there yet? Yeah, why not? Because we're just talking about 2s. Well, yeah. The Wonka movie was released exactly 2,222 days after the Revelation chapter 12 sign. Oh, wow. You know what I just realized? There's something that I forgot. It was like, foundational, so long ago now that I almost forgot completely. about this connection. This is like, we're talking early 2019 now, a discovery way back then. This Revelation chapter 12 sign began in the night sky on the 22nd, if you will, and went into the 23rd. There's more confirmation that it began on the 22nd. I'll just put it that way. There was a big Revelation chapter 12 sign on Earth that wasn't in the night sky on the 22nd. In fact, what it was the threat of the dam collapsing in Puerto Rico. And then there was the evacuation in the middle of the night, which is the timing of the sign of the night sky. Well, the dam bursting was water breaking symbolism, and the Revelation chapter 12 sign is about a woman giving birth. And when women give birth, their water breaks. And prior to that, the cause of the damage that threatened the dam to burst in Puerto Rico was Hurricane Maria, and the media had said that Hurricane Maria had been dancing with Joseph in the open Atlantic prior to Maria landing. And of course, that's Mary and Joseph. It was Hurricane Jose, I should say, but Mary and Joseph. Well, anyway, this sign was 2,222 days, and it started on the 22nd, after the earthquake in Washington, D.C. And that's relevant because George Washington was born on the date 222. And that's why God uses these series of twos in his signs for this symbolism to point to George Washington, because through the 9/11 events, God pointed to George Washington. Washington, after his inauguration in Federal Hall on Wall Street, he marched down Wall Street, as in the Israelites that marched around the walls of security of Jericho. And then he went into Trinity Chapel, where he consecrated the nation to God, saying that if the nation were to ever turn away from God, it would lose its divine protection and blessings. Which it did temporarily on 9/11. And the Trinity Chapel was the only building at Ground Zero to have survived, and it survived without even a broken window due to the 70-year-old sycamore tree that was uprooted when it sheltered the tree. Today, there is a 20-foot-high bronze statue of the roots of the tree outside of the chapel. The chapel is also called the Miracle Chapel today. And anyway, God pointed to the chapel in order to point to George Washington and what he said, which was that if the nation were to ever turn away from God, it would lose its divine protection and blessings. It was a warning. Washington knew more than anyone that God's hand was on the nation, because he saw it in the Revolutionary War, and had it not been for God's hand, the Patriots wouldn't have won. Anyway, that's why also, for example, the CVD day, March 11th, 2020, was exactly 222 months after 9/11, because George Washington was born on the date 222. And I knew, and I predicted and documented back in the November of 2019, long before anyone knew about the CVD disease, I was saying that something very big, bad, and world-changing would happen on March 11th, 2020, and I wasn't saying that about any other date, and that ended up being the CVD day. Also, Trump's speech in the Oval Office ended precisely as the clock on the live TV news screen ticked 9:11 p.m. And I knew about this date ahead of time because it was 222 months after 9/11. By the way, March 11th was the day that the WHO declared that the CVD was a PAN epidemic. Also, if you don't agree with me that this is the symbolic day for the CVD disease, well, the president, or the acting president, on March 11th, 2021, in his first public address since having shoplifted the referendum, said that this was the anniversary of the CVD disease. So even the acting president agrees that this is the date that symbolizes it. Anyway, I predicted the CVD disease, right? I predicted it, because of the 222 months connection. Now, what I'm getting back to is the Washington, D.C. earthquake, 2,222 days before the Revelation chapter 12 sign, which is in turn 2,222 days before the release of the Wonka movie, which is in turn connecting to the follow-up judgment that was warned of on 9/11, which is why the 222, because of Washington, like I just explained. that's predicted with these dirty bombs and the collapse of America's security with the dirty bomb explosions that are coming, that's predicted to come in Manhattan, the location of the 9/11 events. Wow. Okay? Clear. Washington, D.C. earthquake, judgment on the nation, capital being symbolic of America. It also, by the way, did millions of dollars of damage to America's spiritual home, the National Cathedral, nicknamed America's Spiritual Home, which is symbolism for America's spiritual home and God being what adjective? Out of place, not right with God. Okay, and then we get the another 2,220. You get the idea. And the 70 weeks. Most central prophecy in the Bible, which is confirmed again with the 70 plus 70 plus 70 days, right? And the 7 months, okay, like I mentioned. Okay, and then the 25 days, which I've already explained. So you get it. It's very clear. The Washington, D.C. earthquake connects to this through Washington symbolism. And again, Washington is because that points to 9/11, and God's warning on 9/11. Wow. Now, the reason why the Revelation chapter 12 sign is relevant is because Willy Wonka is symbolism for the rapture, which if you don't know what that is, it's Christianity's most preposterous idea, which is that God's true faithful Christians will not go through the persecution period from the Antichrist, but instead will disappear and then return with Christ at his second coming, which by the way is also what a series of twos symbolizes. That's also why it would connect with the rapture here, and also the Wonka movie, because again, what I'm saying is that Wonka is symbolism for the rapture, which is part of the second coming. That's why this is amazing, this connection. In fact, this is the original reason for the understanding with this connection, not the other 2,222 days, but that's amazing too. But this is symbolic of the second coming, and that's what the rapture is, which is why it connects to the release of the Wonka movie. Stunning beyond words. This is so very clear, okay? This 2,222 days. This is a fact, in other words, right? Now, speaking of return and second coming, that's why this 390 days, because of G 390, which is the word in the Greek concordance that means return, used by the Apostle James in the New Testament when he quoted Amos 9:11 from the Old Testament regarding the return of the Lord to rebuild his temple. That's clear return symbolism. Furthermore, a period of 390 days is also prophetic in the Bible. Ezekiel is told to do something for 390 days as symbolism for the 390 years of punishment for ancient Israel. So, and again, we also had the Israel symbolism up here, right? So that's another reason why 390 days is relevant here, but it's more relevant than anything because it connects with the rapture. The rapture is 390 days. The rapture sign, I should say, is 390 days as in return from this sign that I'll explain, which connects with the second coming symbolism to the release of the Wonka movie. And that's what I'm getting at here. Gene Wilder, the star who played Willy Wonka in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, the original 1971 version, the prophetic one, the one that is a gift from God, that symbolizes the rapture, or rather, is the theme of the rapture. This is the day he died. And God uses the dates of deaths of people to symbolize the person and whatever message that would be. In the case of Gene Wilder, the message is the movie Willy Wonka. Okay, this is amazing. Now, at the end of the movie, just to elaborate, the end of the movie has it that the kid is raptured with Willy Wonka. They are shot up into the sky, into the clouds, which is how Bible prophecy describes God's faithful being taken up into the clouds to meet the Lord and forever be with the Lord. The happy ever after ending of the original movie has Willy Wonka and the kid being shot up an elevator into the sky. It's clear rapture symbolism. It's part of how this movie is from God. Whether the author or the director of the movie understood it, It's like how the Bible was written. It was written by men, but it was the Holy Spirit that moved the pen. So this movie is like, if you will, the Holy Spirit inspired movie, which is why at the end of the movie, as in at the end of the age, we have this rapture symbolism. And it's Gene Wilder that's raptured up. And Gene Wilder, Willy Wonka in the movie, is symbolism for God. So the kid, and one needs to be like a kid to enter the kingdom, like Jesus said, the kid represents the Christian. And so God and the Christian are shot up in the elevator into the sky, high into the sky and into the clouds, which is clear rapture symbolism of us Christians meeting the Lord in the sky, in the clouds, as Bible prophecy says. And so it's amazing beyond words, it's beautiful beyond words, that the death of Gene Wilder connects with exactly 390 days to the Revelation chapter 12 rapture sign in the night sky. That was fulfilled in the night sky, this once in human history alignment of the stars. If you don't know about it, I recommend going to asteroidprediction.com and reading about this. You need to read that, the homepage of the website anyway. And you'll know that that's true when the prediction comes to pass. So far, everything that I've explained in this video is amazing, beautiful beyond words. It's crystal clear too. Okay? Now, to finish up the diagram here, let's go back to the woman who was in the vat, because that was the 25th of the month. That's exactly 23 months before the gold card, golden ticket sign, and the sign near the location of the explosion of the chocolate factory, and also near the explosion of 3 Mile Island. 23 months is relevant because it pairs with this 23 weeks here, and this 2 times 30 weeks. And also the 9th semi-prime number. That's most important, actually. More than the 23 weeks and the 23 months, we need to have another 9 or 44 to confirm it in this direction, and that's why 25. It is the 9th semi-prime number, a number that is only divisible by 2 other numbers as a prime number, semi-prime number. Okay, so that's a pairing of 9 and 23. And 9, 23, and 44 are the main numbers that God pairs together to confirm his signs. Because the basketball president wore 23 in high school, and he was inaugurated as the 44th president in 2009. But also, again, the mark of the Antichrist is described in the inverse of it is described in Ezekiel chapter 9, and it changes a person's chromosomes, of which there are 23 pairs of. Okay, and so that's amazing. That's why the woman was in the chalk. She got rescued, as in rapture symbolism, rescued from in the chocolate as in Willy Wonka and the chocolate factory, and rapture symbolism. Exactly 23 months, which by the way is 700 days. Speaking of which, whoa, I forgot that. 23 months is exactly 700 days, and that's why this 70 weeks here. It's another amazing 7, and again, there were 7 deaths. So in other words, from the 7 deaths, it's exactly 700 days. I don't know how I forgot that. Okay, it's amazing, because we had the 7 months, now we have the 700 days, and we also had the 70 plus 70 plus 70 days, and then the 70 weeks. Okay. Now, one last thing here. The Antichrist's wife, who will be the president before Barack Obama will become the president again, she is involved in a Willy Wonka sign. She was in a Costco, and on the day of an explosion sign, which was when the pagers exploded in Lebanon, set off by Israel, which killed 37 people, which was 37 days before the Wonka movie release. This is a Wonka sign, as I'll explain. So this Wonka sign involving Michelle Obama, connects with 37 days because it was also the day of the pager explosions and there were 37 deaths, so that's why 37 days. And again, we are also, leading to the predicted explosion. Obama. Michelle Obama. Now, she was in a Costco because that hits at money, cost. And money is what will be used to enforce the mark of the Antichrist and restricting the buying and selling of food to only those who have taken the mark of the Antichrist, the rationed food, through the programmable digital currency. Okay? And from that persecution, God's faithful will be raptured. So that's why she was in a Costco. But what was she doing there? Well, she was standing in a booth promoting her new drink. Plezzy Fizz. That is astounding beyond words. The name of her drink is Plezzy Fizz. That's because of the fizzy drink in the original Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. You see, Charlie and his grandfather, Charlie is the good kid. All the other kids in the movie are brats. But Charlie comes from this humble background, and he comes with his grandfather to the chocolate factory to go on the tour. One by one, the other kids get eliminated. But during the tour, because they all disobey the rules, which was they can't test, and the rule is they can't test any of the products on the tour. Okay? But they broke the rule when they, behind the backs of everyone, were tempted to sample the fizzy drink. And then as a result of sampling the fizzy drink, like all of the others, they almost met their doom. The others met their doom, but they almost met their doom because they started floating up into the air like they were filled with helium. And then they almost got cut into pieces with the big fan at the roof of the room that they were in. But then they started burping, and then they slowly came back down. And then they caught up with the rest of the tour. But then at the end of the tour, they thought they had won because the competition is the one that can survive to the end and not test any of the candy gets to win a lifetime's worth of chocolate. And so they thought they had won. But they didn't realize that, as Wonka told them, you thought that we didn't know, but we knew. We saw you guys sampling the fizzy drink. Sorry, you guys lost. You can find your way out of the factory. And they were dismissed. They weren't even escorted out. Okay? And so I'll elaborate more on the meaning of all of that in a second. But what I wanted to just get to here is the significance of the fizzy drink. It's very significant in the movie, as you'll see in the explanation I'll give at the end of this video here in a minute. Now, so that's why Michelle Obama was selling a fizzy drink here, exactly 77 weeks after the chocolate factory sign, which was the NTSB report. And that again pairs with the 7 deaths in the chocolate factory explosion, 77 weeks. And it's 23% of 23 weeks, which is 44% of a year. And that's a pairing of 23 and 44 in itself, but the 23 again pairs with the 9th semi-prime number of 25 days. You could also say, by the way, down here, 37 days is 888 hours, which is the gematria equivalent of the name Jesus in Greek gematria. Okay, so I've explained everything in this diagram now, I think. This is an amazing video. Make sure you share it. Don't ever stop sharing it, like literally. I mean, don't ever stop sharing it. There's nothing like it. There's no tool, there's no evangelism tool that compares to this video and this prediction. And don't only share it in the comment sections of YouTube channels or sites that you frequent. Do that, but also go to places you never go. Don't just preach to the choir. Work. Do some work. Okay, now I'm going to play the clip, the amazing, beautiful explanation for how Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory is a gift from God. I forgot a important confirmation detail here. The chocolate factory exploded due to a gas leak. All right, and then this was the gas pipeline that was the cause of the evacuation, the 4.4 inches gas line that was ruptured because of the collapsed bridge, also in Pennsylvania. And we had this, I already explained the connections, but we have gas pipe to gas pipe prophetic signs. So it's another confirmation. All right, I've decided to make the part of this video that is this explanation for how this movie, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, is a most special gift from God. You must hear this explanation. I've decided to make it into a part 2. So make sure that you watch part 2 of this video, especially, of course, when the prediction comes to pass. And the part 2, I promise, will be truly profound.